Hey, so today is the 24th of June, June 24th, 2025, and I want to talk about deterrence. Let's focus specifically on Iran. So, you may have been listening to the news lately, and you must know that Iran has been building up its capabilities to enrich uranium to weapons grade over an extended period of time. And they have now, according to IISS, enriched their 400 to 600 kilogram stockpile of uranium to 60%. That is enough to make around 10 nukes or so, but that is only if the material is further enriched to 90%. Now that is the story before Israel's Operation Rising Lion. We do not know for sure whether or not any of these materials have been destroyed or partially destroyed during the main strike and the subsequent ones. We also do not know whether or not the Iranians were successful in relocating and keeping hidden the near bomb grade uranium because, wasn't it around just 4 days ago, 3 to 4 days ago, the UN has stated that it has lost track of the stockpile. And so this here is a form of deterrence itself. However, operating it would mean bearing a lot of risks. In some previous academic work, I believe it has been called latent deterrence or nuclear latency. In simpler terms, it is when a country maintains the ability to build nuclear weapons in very short notice, usually in a matter of a couple weeks. And at first glance, this promises a few advantages. The obvious is that you would be able to guarantee your adversaries that you can build nuclear weapons on demand very fast, who does not want you to gain that real strike ability. And so that's by provoking you, your adversaries risk the possibility of you becoming nuclear, rendering their armed attempts futile. And in some ways, this also gives you a bargaining chip. I believe Matthew Kroenig spoke about this concept where he explained that knowing that your adversary has the capability to make nukes very quickly, that makes an actor a lot more cautious, you know, as to avoid provoking the other from entering the nuclear path. This also increases the nation's coercive credibility. So, in simpler terms, just how believable is your threat. And this also gives you more power to challenge the balance of resolve. In simpler terms, again, this is just how far are you willing to go, how resolute is your regime. And in a way, this also gives you more flexibility. So in peacetime, you may remain non-nuclear, but when things heat up, when things get more friction, you can choose to opt for the nuclear path, and then you would be able to, in theory, suddenly have a nuclear deterrent in a very short span of time to be able to better protect yourself and to offer a stronger deterrent, a very resolute deterrent in um, a very turbulent time. For example, like World War III, maybe. However, there's one obvious shortfall of this strategy is that your deterrence cannot be proven. You do not have nukes yet, thus you lack a credible threat from the first place, right? And second, you may have the ability to build nukes very quickly, but if this is to become your deterrent, then you have to make it known. And making your program known would have your country under close scrutiny by nuclear powers, who in no way wants to deal with another new nuclear nation. Which then, should you choose to nuclearize, it is very likely that either one, your attempt is foiled under very close scrutiny and a very close watch from other nations' intelligence agencies. The evidence may not be explicit, however, if it allows sufficient deductions, that would already be more than enough to warrant armed operations against you to offset the possibility of you acquiring nukes before you have the chance to act. This is, I think, exactly the case with Israel and Iran, as in, let me see, as in now, again, Iran's nuclear stockpile. We don't know if it's really entirely for civil purposes or if it's for military purposes. Well, it could be both. We don't know, right? And the Israelis, they see Iran as such a giant threat in the region. Iran having um, currently managing the axis of resistance, right? All the armed groups that are fighting against Israel, Hezbollah, Houthi, and all the other armed groups. And so Israel sees Iran as a very dangerous threat. And knowing that Iran has this program, Israel well knows that Iran does have the ability to make nuclear weapons, and thus they cannot take that chance in a strategic view, in the long-term view. That is why, even though Iran supposedly has nuclear latency, however, they don't exactly have nukes yet to deter Israel from hitting their facilities preemptively. I think that's one of the reasons why, as to how Israel was able to afford that risk and strike Iran directly, because Iran does not have nukes yet. Or second, you would end up having nukes. However, your nation will come under even tougher restrictions that will end up hampering your development and threaten the integrity of your institutions. Here, I'm thinking about North Korea here, and after all, the situation would most likely have already been on the de-escalatory path, taking away your pretense of being faced with an existential threat, thus denying you the justification to nuclear escalation. And either way, to me, there does not seem to be a clear way as to how nuclear latency would be beneficial, especially in the case of the Middle East and Iran, unless Iran can make that nuke under like a week span. That way, they can handle the strikes and not risk regime toppling. That is, in my opinion, again. It would all, in a way, it would still be beneficial, but that is unless you got like 100% concealment and 100% operational security. And yeah, let me know if you have any other thoughts. Thank you.